Hey there, my friend. It's Dr. Anthony Balduzzi, and I want to welcome you back to another episode here on the Fit Father Project podcast. Today, we're joined by one of our very own Fit Father brothers, Jason Hahn. He is an amazing guy, a true Fit Father through and through. And what I respect most about Jason and his journey is just merely a couple years ago, he had a situation where his life basically just started going sideways. He had a marriage that ended. He was at the lowest point he'd been in his career. He shut down his photography business. He lost his whole zest and direction in life. And that's a dark place to get to. And I think many of us in our own ways, shapes, and forms can relate to a dark period in our lives. And there's really a couple ways you can go. There's some people that allow that darkness to overtake them and then they just get into self-destructive behaviors. As you're going to hear, that's kind of the direction that Jason's own father chose. But Jason chose something very different. He looked at his son's life ahead of him and he's like, I want to be here for this kid and I want to get back the spark in my life. And he was able to do that. And a huge part of this was the Fit Father Project for Jason. You know, couple that with some therapy, this man completely transformed his life. He certainly lost roughly 30 pounds, got abs. He has a reinvigorated new relationship. He has such great confidence and vitality in his physical fitness. And his journey was hard and challenging, like these journeys are, but as he would say, 1,000% worth it. And this conversation is great because he really chronicles, you know, the phases that we go through as we transform, not just physically, but mentally and emotionally. And we talk about how to get ourselves out of these dark places and kind of go into the light. And it takes work, but it's amazing what you can accomplish in a short amount of time. And I love at the end of this episode, Jason also gives some really great advice for veterans, some very tactical stuff as you're moving through this program and curriculum, like how to transition between phase 2 and 3 and phase 3 and phase 4 and the kinds of things to focus on. So if you're a veteran, I know you're going to get a lot of value out of the back part of this conversation. And if you're someone who's new in the program getting started, then just listen ahead because you get to see a forecast of what's possible with this program and how to honestly run this race in the best way possible. So Jason, listening to this, thank you, brother, for being an amazing Fit Father. And for the rest of us, let's enjoy this amazing conversation with Fit Father Jason Hahn. All right, Jason, welcome officially to the Fit Father Project podcast, my friend. I'm so happy you're here.
Hey, thrilled to be here. Thank you.
So I'd love to kick off our conversation today with a little introduction. So please, if you will, introduce yourself to everyone listening, your name, your age, where you're from, and anything you'd like to share about your work and family.
Yeah, sure. My name's Jason Hahn. I'm originally from Maryland, a little town called Thurmont, right at the foot of the Appalachians. Grew up there, and then after college, kind of worked my way down the East Coast with job, family, and ended up in Florida, which is where I raised my son. And so about 2019, everything changed for me. I had a small business. I'm a photographer by trade. And 2019 was kind of my perfect storm. And I was unhealthy physically, mentally. I closed my business, my marriage ended, and I moved back north. And so I've been back in Maryland with about a year in Ohio for job, and been back here since. Career-wise, as I said, I'm a photographer. I got started in nature photography and then learned all the other forms. Absolutely love what I do. And I'm lucky to get to do do it every day. And somebody asked me recently, where do you see yourself in 5 years? And, my answer always is behind a camera. It's what I love. It's my passion. And, but I got so low in 2019, I actually set down the camera and walked away from it for a while. And now I've come back to it, got myself in a much better place. And, I'm really, really happy to share that journey and how difficult it's been. I'm just glad to be here now.
Yeah. And I'm glad you're here on the other side of that. And I'm just thinking from 2019, we're recording this towards the tail end of 2023. I mean, I bet that feels like 3 short at the same time, kind of long years. Like it's not a lot of time relative to your life, but such a dramatic change in that period of time. It sounds like you've lived a lot of life during that period.
Yeah. And, as I said, describing that perfect storm, it really is that you kind of go through, and I'm sure a lot of people can relate to this. It's almost you grieve it. You have to go through a period of mourning where things have ended, things have changed, and then I beat myself up for a while. And it was I have no doubt I made my mistakes, and but you really do have to come out that other side and forgive yourself, and then decide, I really like being on this side of the dirt, and really, love yourself enough to take care of yourself. And that's where I was I didn't take care of myself. I was taking jobs that I was a ferry boat captain for a while, walking back and forth on a ferry boat. And that's not me. That's not who I am, but that's where I was at one point. And when I left Florida, I was 217 pounds. I'm 165 today. It's a pretty dramatic shift just in that. I know we don't talk about scales as much. We like our NSVs, but just that change alone, it's been huge.
That's really powerful. And I know that there's a lot of guys that can relate to the experience of being in some dark energy, feeling the depression set in and feeling like you're stuck. What got you to start to turn that energy around? Like, was there a particular moment, or was enough at us enough? Like, how do you start to take that spiraling negative energy and start to shift it in a positive direction?
It's tough, and it's tough in our society too, because mental health for guys is something that we don't talk about a whole lot. Mm-hmm. And depression is massively underdiagnosed. There's a lot of people who don't even believe it exists. I fortunately had gotten help years before, about 2014, I went and started getting help. I knew something was wrong. Mm-hmm. And I remember I was on a trip to Alaska, and we're out on a boat. It's a photography trip. I'm leading a group there, and it's stunning. We've been photographing humpback whales and, icebergs, and there's all of a sudden this rainbow breaks out over the mountains. And it is a photographer's dream. And I could barely get my camera up to my face. All I could think about was going home and laying on my couch. And that's when I knew something was really wrong. And that's when I started going into therapy. But it was just the beginning. And it was 2019 where I had my studio and everything just wasn't. I was sleeping 4 hours a night, using food and drinking beer and trying to make this all work. And my marriage was falling apart. And that's when I really knew something had to change. It took about 6 months after I got back up here to Maryland. I stayed with my mom for a bit, and I was working that ferry job, and I wasn't in therapy at the time, and I got back into it. And thank goodness I did. And there was just some tools that my therapist helped me with, and made me just, number one, no matter what happened, I know I made my mistakes. There was a lot of guilt associated with that.
Yeah.
And, but it was that I had to learn to forgive myself, and then I had to learn to love myself, and actually care for this body that I'm in, both mind and body.
Yeah. And what's amazing is I think to hear that, like, it all makes so much sense how those progressions happened and the grace that you had. I know that part of it is working on some mental, emotional stuff with forgiveness and helping understand how and why things happen. But part of it was straight just like behaviors and activity, like start doing better things on a daily basis, and then you start to feel better. So what prompted you to join the Fit Father program? And then I want to hear about some of your early experiences as you're starting to change your behaviors.
Sure. So, first and foremost is I wanted to be there for my son. And so he graduated this past spring. He's a brilliant kid. Absolutely love him. It's amazing. The moment they're born, you just would do anything for them. And, he graduated from Duke with amazing GPA. He's just got a brilliant future ahead of him. And so it was that recognition that I wanted to be a part of his life for a very long time, and that I was on a path that I wasn't going to be. Mm-hmm. And so my father's an alcoholic, and is currently, he's still alive, but he's not. He's in a VA home with dementia, and he drank himself into that place. And what I didn't want is to become that guy, mm-hmm. and not be there for my son, for all the, I was there for all the first steps, the first, whatever. There's a lot of firsts to come. That first, if he gets married, if he has kids, if he has, house, whatever. I want to be there for all of those firsts. Mm-hmm. And so, this past winter, I knew graduation was coming up. I was looking in the mirror. I'm still not happy with myself. And I had stumbled across Fit Father about 6 months previously and bookmarked it. I really need to do this, and I really need to do this. And then as graduation got closer, and the more I thought about it, the more I'm thinking about that graduation and all these other firsts. All of a sudden, it was like, I've got to do this. I've got to get myself back on track and find, get back to being me. And that was the impetus to do it, was that graduation.
Nice. And it's nice that we have these moments in our lives that feel like there's something to prepare for, some little reason that we can like push us over the edge to finally say yes. And I'm glad that you did. And obviously it's been a really impactful part of your life. So being in the state that you were in, which is like not, the most positive state at the time, you were in the rebuilding phase of yourself and the reconnection. Like, what was it like for you in the first month of the first phase of FF30X? Like, take me through what it's like to start to change your eating habits. Take me through mission statement. Take me through exercise. I want to hear about these early 30 days that you were going through.
Yeah, that first 30 days, it is humbling. I mean, it really is. And, we all have this picture of ourselves to a degree, thinking I was fitter than I was. Here I'm a photographer. I carry stuff. I do things all the time.
Right.
And so just in going through, starting off with, number one, looking at the meals and going, wow, I don't eat healthy at all. That sudden recognition that I have way too many cheeseburgers. And, I come home, eat a cheeseburger, drink a beer, watch TV, lay on the couch, and it was an addiction of a sort. So my first step was I kind of eased into it, started changing the food first off. And that was, that was one of the big challenges. That first apex, it was humbling. And, but the feeling of getting through it, even though I was on hands and knees doing those push-ups, and it was just, all of a sudden it was like, it taught me, number one, I needed to keep doing this. I should be able to. Other guys are doing this. I should be able to do this. And then jumping into and getting into the Facebook group that first week and seeing, number one, guys who've been in it for a while and how supportive they were and of us newbies. And so, when I sat down to do my mission statement, it really was about my son, wanting to stay on this side of the dirt for as long as I could, to be there for him. And that really solidified in me my need to do this, my desire to do it. By the end of that first month, I went from doing my Apex. I think my first one was an hour and 25 minutes. Maybe got to the fifth round before having to do push-ups on my knees. Instead of weights, I used soup cans. And
Nice.
So by the end of the month, I had progressed. I had knocked out a 40-minute one and was using, I believe, 15-pound dumbbells. So I moved up to that. And so then already to look back, and I one of my just then already with my before and afters, and that's one thing I cannot stress enough for guys just starting out, take that first before picture, because you're gonna look back and just go, wow. And that's what I'm doing now, 6 months into this, and I can't believe the differences. And it's like, oh, those are my arms. And then I look back, it's like, that was me. I couldn't believe that was me. And to going back now, I just cleaned out my closet and sent a lot of stuff to Goodwill. And I'm looking at these shirts, and it's like, I could fit two of me in there. It's a crazy thing. So, but yeah, that first month, it's equal parts humbling, but then it teaches you so much personal resilience, and that it's not a matter of if I can do this, it's that I will do this, and and then I'm just going to get better. Yeah. And they never get easier. I don't think it ever gets easier. I think you just get better.
Yeah. That's really well said. I like that. I like that concept, right? I mean, that this program brings out that strength and spirit inside of you and teaches you to rise to the occasion. How is your mental emotional? It sounds like, how's that changing these first 30 days? It sounds to me that there's definitely more of a positive, I can do it attitude, leaning into the reality as well as the idea of what could happen in the future. How quickly does your mindset and your emotional inner world shift?
It shifts pretty quickly, and especially, I would say it's not about just the the way you look, but that has a huge impact. Being able to look in the mirror and say, "Wow, that's me." I can see those changes. I can see, the first time I saw an ab, it was like, really, they've been hiding under there all these years, and but it's a huge moment to actually see that. But the mental shifts because that resilience, it extends beyond just the workout. That you find that resilience in other things, and both physical and mental. As an example, I used last week was my mom is president of one of the biggest craft shows on the East Coast. It's a huge undertaking, week-long thing. I help her out with it, and it's a lot of, we don't sleep a lot, from Tuesday of last week until the Sunday night. And so in the course of those days, I walked 51 miles back and forth to work. Okay. Not a lot of sleep, did it in the rain. And you know what I did on Wednesday night is after walking 10 miles on Tuesday, another 5-6 miles on Wednesday, back and forth in the park. Wednesday night I worked out because I felt bad that I hadn't got my Tuesday in. And the idea that I would have ever done that 6 months ago, I wouldn't have. I would have gone home, crashed, eaten my cheeseburger, gone to sleep. That physical, the change in endurance, but also just that I can do this. I can do this, and I will keep doing this. And, from a mental standpoint, I'm more creative now than I was 6 months ago. I mean, I burned out. I lost my creativity at some point, but I found just over the past couple months, I'm drawing, I'm doodling, I'm coming up with ideas that I don't think I was doing before. Yeah. And it really does come back to that resilience and recognizing, I've made some dramatic changes, and, my girlfriend looks at me and, it says, it's like you have a whole new body, and she can't believe either the transformation. And, it just feels good hearing those things.
Yeah.
Just continues to build that confidence. And that way, when I do get down, that's the thing with depression is, at least for me, it's been a lifetime thing. It's something I've struggled with since I was 8 years old. It's still there, but I recognize it. I know the signs. I know the spiral. I know when I'm getting down, I can stop that runaway.
Yeah.
And just put a stop to it. Say, know it, and one of the best questions I've ever, bits of advice from a therapist I received was, she said, to ask yourself, what do you know to be true? Well, what I know to be true right now is that I've lost on this program 28 pounds in 6 months, that I can do a ridiculous amount of push-ups, that I can do an 8-minute plank. I couldn't do that before. And I know that I did that. Nobody else did that. I did that. And if I can do that, I can do anything I put my mind to.
That's really beautiful and powerful, how we can extend out that confidence of true things, because what you're doing in this program is you're doing true things. You're showing up and you're eating a healthy meal. That is true. You're showing up and you're scheduling and executing a workout. That is true. You're almost like building these pillars of truth in your life, like something that you can hang on, that then obviously extends to other areas. Regarding your creativity, something I want to comment on is I just think it's kind of like creativity is the expression of this life energy. It's like when we're feeling good and we can give and stuff's coming through us and we want to express, like the flower in itself is creative because it's stored up energy and then it comes into blossom. And it's like without a strong root, there's no way that kind of happens. And you gave yourself roots, which kind of allows this to all flow through you, which is beautiful because that's like a big part of your essence. And then another thing that came to me as you were sharing that was really powerful is you feel like a different guy. And what's amazing is you're still the same guy in terms of like you're the same being, but what you're experiencing is such a stark contrast of the quality of your thinking, of your attachments, of the modes of operating, and how that was has shifted so dramatically. So I guess it's really interesting to recognize that from the sense of when we're stuck in that rut, we think it's us. But it's not really us. It's the energy pattern that we've allowed to take hold through all the different circumstances. And then you're still the same person that was able to shift it. And I just think there's something very deep there about who we recognize ourselves as, like our own self-identity.
Oh, yeah. One of the terms I use is comfortable misery. And we get ourselves into this with a lot of things in life. We get ourselves into this comfortable misery, and we don't. It takes a lot to push ourselves out of it. We know what comfortable misery is. We know we can, this is what I'll do today, and I'll eat my cheeseburger and lay on my couch, and it's okay, and it'll make me feel a little bit better tonight. But we don't really do what's necessary to push ourselves out of it. And then you do a program like this, and you get out of that comfortable misery and realize it wasn't so comfortable. We were wallowing. We weren't, and who we were, it was like we just pushed that down and didn't allow ourselves to grow. And that's something I always pride myself on, is learning and growing. And I just wasn't. And I just had kind of hit that point of just stagnation. And this really helped push me out of it, and not just physically, but mentally as well.
That's awesome. And I'm sure as someone who's probably done as much beautiful time in nature as anyone I could speak to, like there's something powerful about getting reconnected with these more natural cycles of the body, eating more whole foods, breathing and exerting the heart, and just having a good routine and a rhythm. Like nature runs on these things, and it doesn't run off of cheeseburgers, beers, and late night TV. It runs off of like a more primal pattern that I think you've tapped into through this new lifestyle.
That's it. Yeah. And if nothing else, you start getting back to those patterns of what we should be doing.
Right.
And just clean eating. That I can't say enough good things about clean eating, and that not eating things that one of the things that really stuck out at me was that idea of shopping the edges of the store and not getting drawn into the maze of the middle of the store.
Yeah.
And I remember reading that early on in the meal planning or one of the videos, and that really stuck with me. And just not looking now at the things I was eating and all the chemicals and all the junk that was going in, and I couldn't pronounce most of what was in there.
For sure.
And now I look at my my little Fitbit and say, I sleep more. My resting heart rate went from 70 down to 58 on an average. And these are all changes that I am so much more in tune with my body now. Mm-hmm. I was numb before, and that's the way to describe it, is just you're sleepwalking.
Yep.
And it's something I hope others can wake up from in the same way.
I mean, you gave me chills when you said that numb bit, and I think someone listening to this, it resonated deeply with them. And it's like, man, we get disconnected from our bodies, and we numb ourselves with these like routines that don't serve us and cause future pain, and that just general being comfortable with this blah existence. And then it affects the mind. What is depression, but if not like a little bit of numbness and dullness, like losing the color of life? And now it's like, you're becoming more sensitive now. You're becoming more in tune. You're becoming more expressed. It's like the opposite dimension of this numbness. And I think there's something really significant about the human experience that you're touching on. You're touching on like what it means to be alive, to feel, and to consciously create. And you've done all of that.
And and in such a short period too. And that's where it was really funny when I went back and looked at my 6 months on this. And, I can see the physical changes, but it's also that I can just see the life in my eyes. The expression on my face is different. And to me, those photos capture not just the physical changes, but an emotional shift as well. And, when I'm out walking the dog in the morning, I'm not dreading the chore. I'm out listening to the birds and watching the sunrise and happy to be out there, not resenting the exertion because I was feeling blah from cheeseburgers from the night before.
For sure. And I'm excited too, because just to think now that you have another back part of life to be able to experience with your son and see him thrive, go deeper into your new relationship of love, continue to create with your photography and just express artistically, to be there with your mom and her projects. Like it's like now a perspective of a whole nother life is starting. It's like a renewal and in another whole race you can run. And I mean, you're on it. And I'm just so excited for that, for you and for all the people that you impact.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. That's a good way of putting it. It is really like the next chapter in the book. And if I hadn't turned that page and signed up and done it, that last chapter would have just kept going on.
Yeah.
It was over. And two, that I was setting myself up to be my father, and welcome, bring on the diabetes, bring on the dementia, bring on, and instead I am writing a new chapter.
Yeah.
And a much happier one as well.
100%. And I mean, I'd like to know like any exact words that have come from your son or your girlfriend about your changes. Like, what's their experience been like witnessing you go through this?
The funny thing with my son is his last semester was tough. He's a dual major, biology and environmental sciences. So he was really had a busy final semester. And the first time he had seen me was in a couple months, was at graduation. And right then he couldn't, he was like, wow, he couldn't believe the changes he had seen. Himself now, he's back in the gym almost every day.
Nice.
And he's always been fit. He was a cross-country runner, but he had gotten off track a bit during his final semester, let life get to him. And I really hope that, if nothing else, that was a reminder to him that he needed to take care of himself. And so he was here when I did my personal best for a plank, and he was just staring at me and watching these workouts, because he's done more weight training.
Yeah.
And he could not believe, he's like, I can't believe you didn't stop moving for an hour. I forget. I think I was doing the Gestalt or something like that. And he was just amazed that the old man here was able to do that for an hour.
That's cool.
Yeah. So here's a 21-year-old, 22-year-old is just amazed by all that. And then, my girlfriend, we started dating right before I started on this. So she's seen the full progression, and
Nice.
that gives her comments like, you have a whole new body. And she just loves it. She loves what she's seeing. And she's been fit for her whole life as well. She runs, her kids are fit. And that was, certainly a big thing for me, is that I didn't want to be the guy lagging behind everybody else, unable to keep up with everyone else.
And I got to say, it's really cool that, she obviously fell in love with you and started dating you, for like what she saw in you and just you, but now she's get this added benefit of now having a guy that she's probably a lot more physically attracted to in this process. And also just like, there's a lot of respect that's communicated through seeing someone go through a powerful transformation and put in the work. I mean, you're communicating your values through action more than you could ever express in words. And that's just evident. That's why people respect the transformation so much, because we all know, like, dang, that took a lot of work, and they get to witness that. That's really cool.
Yeah. And it's mutually motivating as well. That's the other thing. And it's like this wonderful feedback loop, where I motivate her and then she motivates me, and, just keeps us going. Yeah.
That's really cool. And that's the beautiful thing about a good culture, where it's like symbiotic, helpful. Everyone's kind of working together and make each other better. Hey, it's Dr. Ray. I want to quickly pause this episode to thank you for listening to this Fit Father podcast. I am just blown away at how amazing this podcast has become. I had no idea when I started FFP around 10 years ago that it would grow into such an impactful mission. And I want to let you know that I am so grateful to be connected to you in this lifetime. And on behalf of me and my entire team, we are so grateful to be in your life, helping you get and stay healthier for your family. That's what I want to share. Just some gratitude from my heart to yours. Let's get back to today's episode. Do you have any stories of any fun non-scale victories, that along this journey? Any stuff that comes to mind? I know you shared a couple, like just generally like that workout after doing the big help with your mom with the craft fair, but like any other non-scale victories that come to mind about cool stories along your journey?
Yeah, I mean, there's been a lot of non-scale victories throughout. The cleaning out the closet that was a big one. And I mean, I got rid of 20 shirts, and
nice.
And so you see that progression over time, from where I was to where I am now. Going shopping with my girlfriend, and all of a sudden I'm trying on jeans, and it's like I couldn't believe the size I had gotten down to, that I dropped 4 inches on my waist. One of the funny ones was actually kind of a scale victory, but was I finally got my scale working on Bluetooth with my phone and could look at it, and all of a sudden that graph popped up where it showed it had been tracking the whole time all the weight changes, and all of a sudden it had 20 entries over the course of a month, and it had dropped. So I see this graph sliding down. I was like, "Whoa, that was a huge change." Um, and then I would say the first time I saw an ad, and I post workout, I'm in the mirror, I'm like, what is that? And I saw that little cut here. I'm like, wait a minute, that indent that was awesome.
Nice.
Yeah. So, but I think, and actually, my one of the funny ones was I was talking with my ex-wife, and that was one of the things we really wanted. We both want to be in Adam's life. We're we went our separate ways. We've moved on with our lives. We both want to be a part of my son's life, and I actually gifted the Fit Mother to her because she was talking about the weight loss, and she had seen me at graduation, and she said, "Did you finally get some new pants? Because at graduation they were just falling off you." Hilarious comment. I'm like, okay, that's a pretty awesome one when your ex says that to you.
Yeah, that's really beautiful. To just the goodness that's coming through this in all ways, and that's a really beautiful story.
Yeah.
A question for you is some advice you have for new guys that are starting out. So even new guys who have had a history of some depression like you have in the past. Like if you could tailor advice in that way, what would you share for people based on your experience so far with Fit Father?
Yeah. The big thing, and thank goodness I did it and didn't have to learn this the hard way, but is stick to the plan. And that's really, there's some things that you could tailor, obviously, for injuries and things like that. But one of the big things I see in the group on Facebook is when people from the start are trying to find the loopholes. Oh, can I eat this? Can I eat that? It's like, if it's on the plan, just don't do it. Mm-hmm. Because it really works. That's the thing. And you're going to be healthier. You just got to stick to the plan. And it's tough. It's that first month is tough. But it's doable. It's very doable. And you just gotta stick to it. And what you find is that all of a sudden you don't miss the things that you used to indulge in.
Yeah.
Beer would be a good example for me. I still have, maybe one a week, 2 a week, but I'm not making weekly trips to the liquor store anymore. And all of a sudden I realized that a month had gone by and I hadn't bought any beer. And the same 5 were still in my fridge. Yeah. And, if at the beginning of the month, I had tried to get rid of all that stuff and, purge, I knew I wouldn't. It had to sit there. And then I had to feel good about seeing it sit there. And that was part of the process.
Yeah.
But it really is to stick with it. The other thing I'll say is, at least, again, from my experience, is go with the lower weights. Don't let ego get in the way. Don't try to push it. If you think you can do 20-pound weights, get 10s. Yeah. And that's one of the good things I did early on was I was like, oh, I can handle a 20-pound curl. You can't handle 100 of them. Mm-hmm. And so, and you're just opening yourself up to injury. So go light, because invariably that's the key, is just you got to pay attention to your body, and going too heavy too long is just going to mess you up.
Great advice.
Yeah.
Now, some advice you have for people who are progressing through the deeper phases of FF30X, maybe 2, phase 3, maybe even heading into phase 4. What's some advice and words of wisdom you have for people who are getting more into the veteran territory?
Again, even as a veteran, is that in whatever you did on the last phase, like as we've progressed through, like at the end of the assault, I'm doing 25-pound dumbbells. Mm-hmm. Great. Start off the next one a little bit later. Yeah. It's gonna be tough, and getting used to those new movements is tough. it just depends on who you are and how your brain works. I write down everything. I record everything. I have a pen and a paper right next to me, and I'll try to mess with my phone during a workout. I have a pen and paper, and I write down my times and my weights for everything, because when those workouts get tough, I go back and look. And it's two things. Number one is it motivates me. It's like, man, I'm doing great. Even though this workout tonight is tough, I just wasn't feeling it. But look at me, I'm 2 minutes ahead of where I was, or I'm 5 pounds ahead of where it was, or
Nice.
whatever. Or other times it may be telling me something's off. Wait a minute, why am I really lagging? Did I not drink my water? And then it makes me stop and think about, okay, what were my habits for the last couple of days? Did I drink my water? Did I get my sleep? Is it just the moon cycle? I don't know what's going on, but something's off. And am I now courting injury? Because to me, that's the thing that particularly at my age, you really got to worry about. And don't, if that, you just got to listen to your body. That's the biggest thing. Between every phase, I personally have taken a week off.
That's a great idea.
And it's just given me that, because I know by the end of the month, I've been pushing hard. I'm looking at those numbers. I'm going to up weights. I'm going to do this. And almost every time I've done that, about a week off. And it's just helped me to reset, so to speak, kind of let my body, get back to where it needs to be. If I've been pushing a little bit extra, just taking that rest gives me a fresh, because the one time I didn't, I found I was really hating that first week of workouts, because everything changes again. And their first weeks are humbling again. That's the point. They're supposed to be challenging. And if you're coming into it already tired and not fresh, to me, that's where I struggled the most. I think it was it was in phase 3. I think it was going through from that month 1 of phase 3 to month 2, and I didn't take that break. And boy, did I notice it. I really struggled that first week.
That's honestly brilliant advice, like truly brilliant. I want to highlight a couple of things so people get this. One is, I'll go back to the writing of things down. Like, it just gives you those feedback loops, and it gives you a sense of accomplishment, and allows you to be like a little more objective about your performance relative to how subjectively you might feel any given day, and just gives you structure. And it's not on your phone, which is also really cool. And then 2, like, man, the week off is like such a great idea. But like, I think the thing is, you earned your week off. You pushed hard up until the end of a phase closure. You set great records on things, but then you were able to back off and allow your body to recover. And then you feel a little more fresh, because you're totally right. When you get out of your comfort zone, because you get comfortable at the end of a phase, the workouts, the motions, you're grooving it. And then you got to start something new that feels clunky. And it's like, there's a little friction there. So just feeling like you have recharged batteries going into that is brilliant. I love that advice. Really good tactical advice for veterans. So I appreciate that tremendously. Have you done any fasting on this program? And has that been a part of your experience?
Yeah. And in fact, that's actually something my girlfriend and I do together.
Nice.
And we'll compare. She tends to do 36s. I haven't done any 36s. I do 24s, but I do a 24 every week.
Nice.
And again, that first day, all you can think about is eating. That's, oh my goodness, I'm gonna never make it. And it's like, it's really, I find the 24s are actually pretty, I won't say easy. I know where my break points are. I know at 18 hours, I'm going to get a little hungry. I want some black coffee. I know at about 20 to 22 hours, I'm going to do the same. And then what I found over the last couple, it's like all of a sudden 24 hits, and sometimes I don't even notice it. I've already gone in, and it's like, oh, wait a minute, now it's 25. Maybe I should break my fast.
Yeah.
And so I'm a big fan of the fasting. What I found for me is it's like a reset switch. And the next day, usually if I'm noticing my weight starting to creep up during the week, a lot of it's water retention for me, for whatever reason. And I don't know if other guys are the same, but it's all that water retention. And then the next day, it's like all that water comes out of me. And it's like hitting the reset switch. So sometimes, and I've noticed that too as I've plateaued, because this is probably the big thing that got in my head, and I know a lot of guys struggle with this, is that whole plateau thing.
Yeah.
The fasts have almost always broke my plateaus on weight loss, and almost every time. And I'll see it like even now I've been pretty steady at 165 for the past month. It's been mainly muscle tone. been noticing the changes are. But if I start creeping up 168, I do a fast, right back to 165
Yep.
with. Yep, absolutely.
I use it the exact same way. It's a nice way to just quickly course correct. You only have to do one thing, guides the body right back on track. And
Yep.
I mean, heading into the holiday season too, at the time of recording this, I think it's a really valuable tool as well to like be able to navigate those kinds of situations without needing to uproot your whole routine, right?
Yeah, and what I had defined for my fasting was the timing on it during the week, and not trying to force it on anybody else. Like I do dinner with my mom once a week.
Yeah.
That's not a fast day. Don't do it the day before, and don't do it that day.
Yeah.
I found for my work schedule, if I fast either on Fridays or Saturdays, that's what works brilliantly for me. I like actually fasting on Saturdays because that's been historically my rest day. I don't work out, I fast, I don't do anything, I just kind of catch up at home, and it's perfect.
Yeah.
You just have to experiment and find what works for you. But I cannot say enough. I had my doubts on fasting at first. Really, we're gonna do this, and then now I look forward to it each week.
I love hearing that. I really do. And I guess on a couple of two final questions for you. The first one is, to you now having gone through this program and made the transformation, what does it mean to you to be a fit father?
Oh, it's huge. I mean, I really do feel, we use the term brotherhood a lot, but it really does feel like a brotherhood, and that we've really done something. You've joined this group. And it's not an elitism thing, but it is that everybody in this has gone through their apexes and their planks and their whatever. We all know that, but we also know that they came here because they wanted to make a change.
Yes. And
that they've put in the work at this point. No matter where you are, you're putting in the work. Mm-hmm. And it is very reassuring to know that if I slip, that because life happens and stress happens, things happen, that group is still there. The guys have my back, and then I can jump in on Facebook or send something to support and say, hey, I need some help here, and it's there. And I've never been part of anything. I've tried some other fitness things, and as we all have at some point, and we try to do it ourselves. We try to, and that having that accountability and having that support has been huge for me. I wouldn't have been able to do it otherwise. So now coming out the other side and being kind of the veteran, so to speak, or at least having done, now I'm in phase 4, and I just know that I'm looking at guys going, not looking at them in terms of how can I help you? How can I do what I did? And that's a good feeling to have. It makes you want to give back because you know how life-changing it is for you and how good you feel now. And you want to give that to others, and have other people feel what you feel. So that to me is a big part of it. And honestly, I just signed up. I saw the sale come out, so I signed up for my year membership.
Nice.
Morning.
Love that. That's fantastic. And thank you for that. And your reflection is like really artistic, and this might just be your nature, but like you kind of described that, Fit Father is it's connection, it's mutual respect to the guys. And also for you now as a veteran, Fit Father's full circle. It's coming around and completing that by now giving the goodness that you once received. And wow, I mean, there's a lot of life lessons in that. And I think a lot of just really beauty. I think the best parts about life are times where we feel connected, successful, and we're kind of sharing this goodness that we love and we cherish in ourselves and wanting others to have that. And like you are the living embody of that right now. And so I'm really impressed with you, grateful for you. And like our team is super proud of you. So my final question, I guess, is really any thanks or shout outs that you have to anyone in the brotherhood who inspired you or anyone on our team who was really instrumental. Cause I know it's far more than just me sitting here. I know I designed the thing, but like any shout outs?
Yeah, absolutely. Kat and Craig just been so supportive throughout this. Every time I've had a question, concern, whatever, and I was one of those that every time I got my accountability email, I just filled it out and sent it back. And,
nice.
And there were many times that you you think, oh, I'm just sending this back, but Kat would pick out something that I had like, halfway down the page and just a comment, and then send me like 14 links to help me out with that. And that's somebody, she read it. She understood the challenge and that I was facing and actually cared enough to reply. And I'm sure you guys get a zillion emails a day but still to go through that. So many of the guys, and I know Pete Olson and Shane Dixon on the Facebook just constantly are replying to everybody. It's like they have a full-time job doing this, but it's so cool to see. And Pete in particular, he was just a little bit ahead of me on the program, so I could see it was kind of like he was like Mr. Preview for me. It's like if he was going through something, I'm like, that's what I'm going to be doing in 3 weeks. So that's good to know that he's already addressed that concern. And by him sharing, these guys sharing those things, I could see ahead of time, what to expect. But it also kept me going too. That was really deeply appreciated, that everybody shared. And then just the love that you get on your posts. That was another huge Facebook. It didn't matter what question, comment, concern. If it was just, hey, look at me this week, look at what I've done. There was always that outpouring of support, no matter what.
Well, I got to say, Jason, this has been a pleasure for me to be able to have a smile and get chills a couple times in this conversation, just to celebrate you. And I know there's a lot of guys that are going to be feeling the same way listening to this and seeing you as their preview. And I just want to thank you for using this program and taking it to the extent you have and changing your life. And congratulations again on all the new life and the new chapter and the future. We're really proud of you.
Well, thank you very much. It's been an absolute pleasure to be here, and I am just thrilled to be a part of all of it.